In the third year of marriage, Jeremy became infatuated with a female college student. Their love burned passionately. I continued to play the role of the gentle and understanding daughter-in-law of a wealthy family, even thoughtfully covering for him in front of both sets of parents. Until the day he went to the club looking for his disobedient little girl and saw me sitting on a male model's lap, kissing him wildly. The usually composed man had reddened eyes and smashed the club to pieces. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful novels every day. Now the story begins. Jeremy's kept woman has been acting a bit restless lately. She actually went behind Jeremy's back and secretly made a scene at the old mansion, trying to get the old master to acknowledge her status. The old master flew into a rage. I cooperated with Jeremy to put on an act. Only then were we able to bring everyone out safely. The little girl followed behind us with red-rimmed eyes. As soon as we stepped out of the carved gate of the old mansion, she immediately reached out and grabbed Jeremy's sleeve. Brother, I'm not with you just for the money. She looked up at Chin Jeremy, and tears instantly streamed down her face. So pitiful that even I feel for her. No wonder Jeremy is utterly infatuated. Clearly, the attitudes of the old master and Jeremy's parents made her realize how vast the gap is between her and the Jonas family, which is why she couldn't wait to explain as soon as she stepped out. Olivia frowned but ultimately couldn't bring herself to scold her. He reached out to tousle her hair, his tone a mix of helplessness and adoration. All right, stop crying. I understand everything. After speaking, he looked at me standing nearby, his expression somewhat troubled. She must have been frightened just now. I'll take her home first. I had come here in his car, but now that he was taking his new love, naturally, I couldn't go with them. But if I let the driver from the old house take me, it would inevitably let the old man know. I gave Olivia a smile and took the initiative to respond. I'll just take a taxi later. Clearly pleased with my thoughtfulness, Jeremy nodded in satisfaction. He nodded, put his arm around the young girl, and walked away without looking back. He didn't even remember that within several kilometers around the old mansion, the land was worth its weight in gold, and those who lived here were either wealthy or noble. It was impossible to hail a taxi. Jeremy didn't return home until the evening of the next day. There were still a few darkened hickeys on his neck, deliberately printed where the collar couldn't cover it, as if declaring ownership. Such childish antics could only come from someone as shallow and immature. I lowered my eyes, pretending not to notice, and with a smile took the jacket he'd just removed, perfectly embodying the image of a virtuous wife. I even magnanimously showed concern for his mistress. How is she doing? He tugged at his collar a few times, speaking casually, just throwing a childish tantrum. She'll be fine after some coaxing. Seems like she's been successfully soothed. After hesitating for a moment, I finally decided to share with him the idea I'd been pondering for quite some time. Have you ever thought about giving her a proper status? Jeremy stood frozen in place, his tall frame rigid. After a few seconds, he finally reacted, asking in confusion, "What do you mean?" "What I mean is, Jeremy, let's get a divorce. I've played the role of a virtuous wife for so long, and I don't want to continue anymore." Clearly, Jeremy never expected me to bring up divorce. He raised his hand to pinch the bridge of his nose, his handsome face, the one I'd swooned over for years, now filled with irritation. "Olivia, you should know very well that divorce isn't that simple for us." You could tell he was trying his best to suppress his emotions, forcing his voice to sound calm. In the past, this attitude of his meant he didn't want to continue the topic, and I should know when to stop. But this time, I was determined to get a divorce. My marriage with Jeremy was purely a business arrangement. Divorce isn't just a matter between the two of us. It involves both our families. Getting divorced is truly not easy. I bit my lower lip and continued. It is a bit troublesome. But, enough. He abruptly cut off my next words, reaching out a long arm to pull me into his embrace. I have indeed neglected you during this time. I'll change in the future. Don't mention divorce again from now on. Olivia, it seems like it's been ages since we last did it. With that, he lowered his head, Olivia's pouting lips moving closer to mine. I quickly covered his mouth with my hand, making up an excuse. I'm on my period. Not convenient. Damn it. Who wants your rotten cucumber anyway? How disgusting. The divorce negotiations fell through, so I quickly packed my bags and moved out of the house. Jeremy thought I was throwing a tantrum out of jealousy. He called me repeatedly, and when I didn't answer, he bombarded me with frantic messages. Actually, I was just worried he might get frisky again. As for jealousy, I admit, in the early days of our marriage, even the slightest rumor about him would upset me terribly. But as it happened more and more, I gradually got used to it, and my deep love for him was worn away bit by bit with each passing habit. But I don't mind letting him misunderstand. This is the perfect opportunity to max out his credit card. Consider it compensation for betraying our marriage. 1 week after running away from home, my best friend Mona and I stepped into the city's most upscale leisure club. Of course, all expenses will be covered by Jeremy. As soon as we entered, we ran into Canary, dressed in her work uniform and carrying a fruit platter. Well, I thought for a long time but still couldn't recall her name. I cleared my throat lightly and asked, "What are you doing here?" The little sparrow pursed her lips tightly, her beautiful big eyes glaring straight at me with an indignant expression. Mona linked arms with me, sizing her up with a few glances. "So this is the little plaything your family's Jeremy keeps on the side. What? Doesn't Jeremy give her money? Why is she working here?" The plate in little sparrow's hands Olivia shook, like a cat with its fur standing on end. "Jeremy and I are together because we love each other, not for his money." She turned her spearhead toward me and continued her tirade. "Jeremy said he only loves me, and being with you was just for family interests." I waved my hand. Got it. Wishing you happiness," without paying her any more attention. I took Mona into the private room. Mona laughed so hard she trembled. "Jeremy, where did you find such a treasure?" She actually talks about love with Jeremy, a married man of your social standing. She couldn't possibly think someone like her could successfully climb the social ladder. Could she? She'd be better off making the most of her youth while she can. I curled the corner of my lips. That's what youth is for. In old money families like ours, inheritance is valued more than wealth itself, which is why we're especially cautious about marriage. Marriage partners are either exceptionally outstanding, possessing high social status, or they're arranged unions. Jeremy isn't foolish enough to give up everything he has for her. Otherwise, he wouldn't have refused the divorce I proposed. Mona continued. "I heard that girl has been giving Jeremy a hard time these past couple of days. Apparently, because you ran away from home, you took up Jeremy's attention, and the little girl isn't happy about it. The circle is just that small. If someone really wants to find out, it's hard to keep things hidden." I rolled my eyes at her. "You're quite the gossip. I have to say, spending my cheating husband's money to keep a male model is truly exhilarating, especially when the male model is handsome, sweet-talking, and has a great body. It would be even better if my husband didn't catch me." When Jeremy kicked the door open, I was straddling the male model I'd had my eye on for the past 2 days, arms wrapped around his neck, my mouth all over his face, a sultry makeup, glamorous big waves, and a figure-hugging outfit that accentuates her curves. Hearing the noise, I instinctively turned toward the source. The seductive look in my eyes hadn't yet faded when I saw the dark-faced Jeremy. I pecked the male model's lips once more before slowly climbing off him. Jeremy's face had darkened like the bottom of a pot, his gaze at the male model so fierce it seemed he wanted to slice him into 1,000 pieces. I smoothed my hair and was the first to break the silence. "Why are you here?" He gritted his teeth, speaking in a low, deliberate tone. "Olivia, how dare you? What's there to not dare? You play your game, I'll play mine." The more I spoke, the more guilty I felt. Fairness matters. You keep your little lovers outside, and I never made a fuss about it. It's not that I'm guilty because I got caught with male escorts, but simply because I cheated on him and spent his money doing it. "Mr. Jeremy, how did you end up here? I've been looking for you in the VIP lounge for ages." "Lilith, I've brought her to you. My apologies. I had no idea she was yours." I leaned sideways to look outside, where a chubby man was walking over with little Sparrow. So her name was Lilith. Jeremy stood still, not even glancing in that direction. Meanwhile, Lilith fluttered toward him like a fledgling bird returning to its nest, arms outstretched and sobbing as she threw herself at him. "Honey, I was wrong. I shouldn't have been petty with you, and I especially shouldn't have sneaked out to work without telling you." "Me?" After shouting, she followed Jeremy's gaze and saw me, pouted, then snuggled into Jeremy's arms, coquettishly whispering, "Honey," calling my husband, "honey," right in front of me, the legal wife. This should count as a blatant provocation, shouldn't it? I didn't really care, though it did make me feel a bit nauseated. The only one truly suffering was the overweight man who had just walked up to us. Although I don't know him, he seems to have recognized me. He glanced at me, then at the obviously battered male model beside me. and finally at the frowning Jeremy and the young lover in his arms. In just 1 minute, his facial expressions changed more than 10 times. In corporate marriage families, it's quite normal for husbands and wives to each have their own affairs. As long as things don't get too out of hand, they'll choose to turn a blind eye for the sake of mutual benefit, maintaining a facade of harmony. A direct confrontation like ours, where swords are drawn openly, is actually quite rare. Jeremy patted Lilith on the back, suppressing his temper to coax her. Be good. Let the driver take you home first. I have some matters to attend to here. Lilith responded with a soft, "Oh," slowly extricating herself from Jeremy's embrace. She gave me a once-over with her gaze and casually remarked, "You said you were here to handle Miss Song's matter." "Right. When I first started working here a few days ago, I ran into Miss Song and her friend. I heard they ordered the 5 most expensive items that day. I was afraid you two might argue, so I didn't dare tell you." I clicked my tongue lightly. This young lady isn't very kind. Jeremy clenched his hand hanging by his side into a fist, his gaze shifting to Lilith, his eyes brimming with suppressed impatience before erupting into fury. "Didn't I tell you to go back first? Can't you understand?" Perhaps unaccustomed to being treated this way by him, Lilith pouted and glared, her tears teetering on the edge of falling, her expression clearly saying, "I'm unhappy. Hurry up and comfort me." However, Jeremy was in no mood to indulge her childish romantic games at that moment. For the first time, he lost his temper with the golden canary he had always cradled in his palms. "Get out." Lilith ran away in tears. Jeremy walked over to the sofa where I had just been riding the male model with a dark expression and plopped down on it. "Manager Jim, please bring over everything my wife has ordered." He gritted his teeth, ultimately unable to utter the words. "Male model," called Manager Jim. The overweight man wiped his sweat, bent his waist, and nodded in agreement. As soon as he left, Jeremy slammed the crystal glass on the table with a smack. "Olivia, you've grown quite the backbone." He took off his suit jacket and threw it at me, the oversized garment covering my head. A faint trace of Lilith's perfume still lingered on it. I pulled it off, intending to throw it back to him. Then I saw him frown as his gaze swept over me, finally settling on the pair of bare legs beneath the miniskirt. "Put it on. You're not allowed to go out dressed like this from now on." He's really overstepping his bounds. I never realized before how possessive he could be. I calmly put away the clothes and looked him straight in the eye. "Jeremy, let's get a divorce. I'm truly tired of this." Jeremy, who had been restraining himself, completely lost control of his emotions after I finished speaking. With reddened eyes, he kicked the table in front of him, sending it askew. "Didn't I tell you never to mention those 2 words again?" I sighed, trying to communicate with him calmly. "You don't love me, so why insist on tying me down? This way, none of the 3 of us is happy." Jeremy froze for a moment, then pointed at the male model standing quietly nearby, his voice hoarse as if roughened by sandpaper. "Not happy? You're happy fooling around with this kind of trash that can't even be shown in public." The male model raised an eyebrow at the remark and retorted, "Whether I'm happy or not, shouldn't you know best? Just think about when you were fooling around with that trash you were keeping." I quietly gave him a thumbs up. What a brave soul. Manager Jim led in a row of male models just as Jeremy had already smashed the private room to pieces. The fat on his face trembled twice before he finally cast a cautious glance at the warrior standing amid the wreckage. "Mr. Jeremy, what on earth?" Jeremy tossed the cigarette in his hand to the ground, crushed it under his foot with 2 deliberate twists, and said indifferently, "The losses can be calculated later. Just report them to our company's finance department." As he spoke, a cold smirk played at the corner of his lips as his gaze swept over the dozen or so strikingly handsome male models. "Didn't realize your appetite was this big. My fault for not satisfying you enough." I rolled my eyes inwardly, silently despising that rotten cucumber of his once again. Jeremy pulled out a bank card and tossed it onto the already warped table. "There's 5 million in here. All of you. Slap each other's faces. Whoever slaps the loudest gets this money." I glared at him furiously. "Jeremy, are you insane? This is humiliating." Right after I shouted, a series of crisp sounds rose increasingly louder behind me. Jeremy sneered even more mockingly. "Seems they're quite happy to be humiliated by me." I turned around stiffly. The people brought by Manager Jim had already started fighting, except for the brave soul who had stood up to Jeremy, who still stood aside with a defiant swagger. Truly the most satisfying so far. Jeremy had no interest in watching their performance and tried to pull me away by the arm. only to be stopped by the onlooking brave soul. Jeremy narrowed his eyes at Olivia. Know your place. You're just a lowly thing meant for amusement. Get lost. I frowned and said discontentedly. Jeremy, can't you speak more politely? Not expecting me to speak up for someone else. Jeremy tightened his grip. You better shut up and come back with me quietly. Otherwise, I can't guarantee what I might do next. The warrior's handsome face also darkened, giving off an air of impending storm. Afraid the two might come to blows, I quickly shook my head at him. After all, I am still Jeremy's lawful wife, and given Jeremy's social status, dealing with a mere male model would be effortless for him. I didn't want to cause trouble for others. Stepping out of the club, Jeremy hailed a cab, shoved me into the back seat, and quickly slid in after me. The ride was silent. Once home, he immediately locked the door behind us and pulled out his phone to make a call to someone unknown. Bring a few more guys. LJ is getting trashed. There's also one inside called. He looked at me, and I quickly shook my head. It wasn't that I refused to tell him the warrior's name, but I genuinely didn't know. I was just here to spend some money. Why would I care what they're called? Go find manager Jim. He knows who it is. After smashing it up, find that guy and break his hand. Jeremy has a bit of a temper. That much I know. But his self-control is extraordinary, so I rarely see him in a rage. Never did I imagine he could be this ruthless. He's innocent. Jeremy, you can't do this. He rose and pressed forward, pinning me down, his beautiful eyes filled with twisted red veins. If he dares to covet you, he's not innocent. Olivia, be good. Don't let me hear another word of you pleading for him. Otherwise, it might not just be his hands at stake. Fortunately, I was afraid Jeremy might do something outrageous. So on the way home, I secretly contacted Mona and asked her to rush to the club to get the person out early. I would feel terribly guilty if an innocent person got involved because of me. I pushed him with both hands, but he grabbed them and pinned them above my head. Did they touch you? He whispered in my ear. I switched to kicking him with my leg, but he caught it between his legs, pinned down tightly. I gritted my back teeth in frustration and retorted, no, they don't offer that service. You can kiss and touch, but it can't go all the way. It's such a tease. He clearly knew this too, bursting into laughter, his expression softening considerably. You look quite adorable when you're pouting. With one hand restraining both of mine, he used his free hand to pinch my cheek. Let's just consider these past couple of days of absurdity as you being playful. We'll put it behind us and live properly from now on. All right. Seems like he's gained quite some experience in coaxing young girls. This doting tone comes so naturally to him. Fine. As long as you cut ties with that college student, I'll live a proper life with you. Jeremy remained silent for a few seconds, then released me and sat up straight. He raked his fingers through his hair in frustration. You know, she's no threat to your position. If you really can't stand her, I'll make sure she never appears in front of you again. To put it bluntly, they just refused to let go. I nodded to show I understood. His reaction was exactly what I had expected. That's fine. It's a good thing I stopped liking him long ago, or my heart would be in so much pain right now. Jeremy and I had an arranged marriage, but we were also childhood sweethearts. I had a secret crush on him for many years. After marriage, we enjoyed over a year of blissful honeymoon-like days, until one day, paparazzi caught him drunk, entering a hotel with a certain actress. I went back to my parents' home in tears. My mother sat quietly by my side, waiting for me to finish crying before handing me a stack of tissues. Olivia, marital love is a luxury for families like ours. Of course, I hope you two can be deeply devoted to each other. But since things have come to this, you should learn to let go sooner. Let it go. Just two simple words. Yet it took me another year and more to truly embrace them. Jeremy thought he had comforted me and reached to touch my hair, but I dodged his hand. He frowned, his expression darkening again. Olivia, stop being petty. Haven't you always been the understanding one? Growing up starts with affection, and later it's because of indifference. Treating him as a money-making machine while I obediently play the role of a wealthy socialite. Such a life isn't entirely unacceptable. It's just that over time, it inevitably becomes tiresome. My nature was never this gentle and refined. But the Nelson family needs a well-educated, dignified young lady, and the Jonas family requires a proper, gentle, and virtuous daughter-in-law. Pretending for over 20 years has been truly exhausting. As I lifted my gaze to meet his, ready to bring up divorce once again, Jeremy's phone rang. Perhaps intending to make a point, he answered on speakerphone. LJ is already smashed. It might be a bit difficult to handle what you asked about crippling the hand. He seems to be the one the Lester family just got back. Also the big boss behind LJ. The grandson the Lester family just got back. I think his name is Marius Lester. No wonder we ran into him near the old mansion last time. Jeremy left with the little sparrow. And I sent Mona a message asking her to pick me up at the old house. While waiting for her by the roadside, a very ordinary Volkswagen pulled up beside me. The window rolled down, revealing an exceptionally handsome face. Where are you headed? I can give you a ride. It seems hard to get a taxi around here. I waved my hand in refusal. My friend will be here soon. At the time, I was still wondering why someone would drive a Volkswagen Levita worth less than 200,000 yuan here. Not that the car was bad, but the old mansion was the most exclusive affluent neighborhood in Jincheng, where the vehicles were typically worth tens of millions at the very least. Later, when I saw him at LJ, I naturally assumed he was some wealthy woman's kept man. Thinking back now, he must have just come out of Lester's house that day. I secretly breathed a sigh of relief. His identity isn't simple, so Jeremy can't easily touch him now. My original plan was to give him a large sum of money and send him abroad. But now, it seems unnecessary. Jeremy thought that smashing a LJ was just a matter of paying compensation. Money he had, and an extraordinary amount at that. Status he also possessed. As the heir of an old money family, no one would dare show him less than due respect. Yet, as fate would have it, LJ was owned by another future heir of an old money family, one who had just crossed swords with him. In just a few short hours, the news of SS Group's general manager smashing a high-end club in a fit of rage quickly topped the trending charts. The news also included surveillance footage of Lilith in her work uniform, rushing into Jeremy's arms and calling him husband. Marius personally stepped in to repost. Prior to this, we were unaware that Miss Lilith was Mr. Jeremy's girlfriend, and there was no disrespectful behavior toward Miss Lilith. Regarding the incident of sending people to vandalize the establishment, we hope Mr. Jeremy can provide a reasonable explanation. Jeremy being married was never a secret to begin with. As for Lilith, since she dared to confront the old man demanding recognition, she was clearly never the type to keep a low profile. Her real identity and social media accounts were quickly doxed. All the affection she had flaunted in the past now turned into spears stabbing back at her. The hot search was quickly taken down, but too many people had already seen it, and it eventually blew up. Once again, we were summoned back to the old family estate. The old man sat in his chair, leaning on his cane, trembling with rage. Jeremy, his father, stood by, gently patting the old man's back to help him calm down. Upon seeing Jeremy, his face immediately turned cold. "You unfilial son, kneel down at once." Jeremy, knowing he was at fault, pressed his lips together without a word and dropped to his knees with a thud before the old man. "Didn't you say last time that the girl was just a wine seller who latched onto Xiaoyu for his money? How did I suddenly become his mistress now? And then there's the Lester family's one. Every time he comes back, doesn't he end up making his grandfather stay in the hospital for a few days? That guy is utterly unreasonable. Why did you have to go and smash up his shop? And all for such a worthless thing?" With each sentence, the old man tapped Jeremy with his cane. "No, Grandpa, I smashed his shop because..." Jeremy stopped mid-sentence, slamming on the brakes. He clamped his mouth shut again, his previously raised head now hanging low. The old man gave him 2 more whacks, and when he couldn't get anything more out of him, he turned his gaze to me. "Olivia, you tell Grandpa, what on earth is going on here?" I glanced at Jeremy, who was staring at the ground without saying a word, and followed his lead by lowering my head like an ostrich with its beak clamped shut by a clamshell. "How am I supposed to explain this? Should I say the whole thing started because your grandson caught me in the act with Marius?" The old man was lecturing. Jeremy's phone kept ringing non-stop. I guess it must be Lilith. Having her personal information exposed, she must be having a hard time. Sure enough, as soon as he left the old house, he immediately called back. The voice was still tense, but a hint of tenderness could faintly be heard. "Don't be afraid. I'll come find you right now. Stop crying for now, and wait for me obediently." Fortunately, I learned my lesson and drove here myself this time. Otherwise, I'd be left behind again. Lilith is emotionally unstable right now. I need to go check on her first. Jeremy looked at me, hesitating to speak. I nodded with a calm expression. Go ahead." I bore no ill will toward the young girl, aside from flaunting Jeremy's affection for her. She hadn't done anything to truly hurt me. The primary responsibility for the affair lies with Jeremy. Instead of going straight home, I drove to the office. The Nelson family's business in recent years has been mostly managed by my brother. After he found out I wanted a divorce, he asked, "Have you made up your mind? If you divorce, not to mention the hassle of dividing assets, it also involves the collaboration between both families." From a young age, I was taught that family interests come before personal ones. Old money families are like towering century-old trees, with not just a main trunk but also sprawling branches. They watch us with covetous eyes, constantly seeking to replace us. But a lifetime is so long. I nodded. "Bro, I'm sorry." After a moment of silence, my brother patted my head and said gently, "If you want to leave, then leave. Our Nelson family doesn't need to rely on a daughter's marriage to sustain itself." Due to the shop smashing incident, Jonah's family's stocks took a slight dip, and Lilith was making a fuss again. Jeremy didn't return home until several days later. I pushed the divorce papers in front of him. "Take a look, and if there are no issues, just sign it." Jeremy picked them up and threw them straight into the trash. "Olivia, can you stop fighting with me for now? I'm exhausted. Let me rest for a while." He spoke while trying to hug me. I pushed him away and said calmly, "After so many years of marriage, when have I ever made a scene with you? If you sign, we can part amicably. If you don't, then we'll proceed legally." Jeremy stared at me intently, perhaps realizing my firm stance, and panicked. "Do you have to be so ruthless? Olivia, I don't want to divorce you. Can we not get divorced? I'll break it off with her. You said as long as I ended things with her, we could make our marriage work." I shook my head. "It's too late. To avoid divorce, Jeremy moved straight into the office. But he still sends me good morning and good night messages every day, shares his daily life, and showers me with gifts as if they were free. Probably just copying the same tactics he used on Lilith and applying them to me. When he shared with me yet again about the coffee he drank that day, I couldn't help but reply, "Jeremy, aren't you tired like this? Since you don't love me anyway, why bother?" After the message was sent, the chat window finally fell silent. These past few days, even though I never responded to him, he kept talking to himself non-stop. Early the next morning, Jeremy once again timed his "good morning" message perfectly. I thought about it all night and realized that I actually love you. "Olivia, I'm sorry. Can you give me another chance?" "Me? Stop your nonsense. Go home and get that divorce done already. Bad luck." Jeremy seems to have completely awakened, even publicly confessing his feelings to me under the company's official account. His action quickly drew a wave of criticism from netizens. "Is this cheater trying to whitewash himself? Stop pretending. It's disgusting to watch. Is it because the incident where you smashed someone's store for your mistress affected the company's revenue? So now you're trying to salvage your image?" He accepted all the criticism without complaint. Then, he posted another apology statement, showing an extremely sincere attitude. Finally, he wrote, "I was wrong, and I admit it. I blame myself for realizing my true feelings too late. I accept everyone's criticism and supervision. All I want is to save my marriage and the one I love." It felt like watching a farce. I asked my brother for the company's top lawyer and prepared to file for divorce. The next day, Lilith asked to meet me at a cafe. She didn't know how long she had been crying. Her eyes were red and swollen, feeling almost too puffy to open. Her pretty little face had lost its glow. Her lips were dry and peeling. Even her voice was hoarse beyond recognition. "Can you give Jeremy back to me? I really like him. I'm begging you." Although I also felt she looked somewhat pitiful right now. What the hell does this have to do with me? A mistress demands the legal wife to return her husband to her. "You shouldn't have come to me." She blinked, and tears began to fall. Pitter-patter. I really can't take it anymore. He broke up with me. I went to see him, but he refused to meet me. "Please, help me. I can't live without him." I stood up and looked down at her. "I'm sorry. I can't help you. We're getting a divorce." Seeing the sudden sparkle in her swollen eyes, I curled my lips and turned to leave. The little girl is still dreaming of climbing the social ladder. Wish her success. Returning home, I unexpectedly saw Jeremy in the living room. I raised an eyebrow. "What? Came back to divorce me?" He seemed a bit awkward. "No. Assistantly said there's a popular movie recently, and he's already bought tickets for us." "Is this trying to ask me out?" "No need. The only thing I can discuss with you now is divorce. I've already contacted a lawyer. If you still refuse to sign, We'll see each other in court in a couple of days. Jeremy sat in the shadows, his expression unreadable. After a long pause, he finally asked, "Is there really no other way?" "Yes." "Then, give me one more month. I remember we haven't even had our honeymoon yet." I felt my eyebrows knitting together so tightly they might turn into tangled hemp. "Is it still necessary?" He said firmly, "Yes. In a month. I'll sign voluntarily. Even if we go through the procedures. As long as I don't agree. It should still take a few years." "Right. It seems this is indeed the best solution so far." Seeing my hesitation, he continued, "I can make concessions on the division of assets. But for this 1 month, we must live like a normal couple." As he spoke, his voice carried a hint of bitterness. "Consider it as making up for our honeymoon. Concessions on assets. And now adding weight to this negotiation." I gritted my teeth and said, "Fine. But there must be no physical contact whatsoever. If you agree, draft a contract for me tomorrow." Jeremy indeed made significant concessions. On top of the property division I proposed, he gave me 2 additional office buildings, 3 commercial shops, and even 5% of the shares in SS Group. To put it in perspective, he only holds 20% himself. With the property division settled, Jeremy started planning our itinerary for the month. Excited like a love-struck teenage boy, he asked me, "Olivia, shall we go to the amusement park? Or the beach?" Half leaning on the sofa, I absent-mindedly tapped away at a casual game on my phone and replied, "Don't you have work to do? Everything's been delegated. My assistant will contact me if there's an emergency. Here's the itinerary I prepared. Take a look and see where you'd like to go." He handed me a piece of paper covered in writing, his eyes shining as he looked at me, filled with anticipation and nervousness. 2 people preparing for divorce were pretending to have a pure romance here, thinking that as long as I endured for a month, I could smoothly get divorced and receive a considerable amount of property. I silently endured. I randomly pointed. "Let's go here. I mean the biggest shopping mall." Jeremy had somehow bought a couple's outfit at some point, blushing as he asked me to change into it. I silently repeated 10 times. "Divorce. Assets. Divorce. Assets." I held it in again. We went to eat what they call a couple's hot pot, then tried our luck at the claw machine, arms full of plush toys. I was about to head to the escape room when I turned around and bumped into a broad chest. "Watch your step." I looked up and met Marius's gaze. After learning his identity, recalling my previous boldness of sitting on his lap and nibbling on him inevitably felt awkward. Jeremy quickly pulled me out of Marius's embrace and hid me behind him. Even without looking, I could sense the tension between the 2 men. Marius was the first to speak, his tone laced with sarcasm. "Mr. Jeremy is truly impressive, managing both home and outside affairs." Jeremy stiffened, his voice sharp. "Mr. Marius should focus on his own affairs and refrain from meddling in others' family matters." "Mr. Marius seems to have forgotten what I said. Don't covet what isn't yours." "Is that so?" Marius chuckled lightly. "It's not over yet. Who can say for certain who will end up with what? Don't you agree, Mr. Jeremy?" I haven't yet thanked Mr. Jeremy for his generosity. I've been thinking about renovating LJ recently and was worried about the expenses. When Mr. Jeremy proactively sent money my way. Because of Marius, Jeremy lost interest in continuing the game. We simply went home early. That Marius, you can tell at a glance he's no good. Olivia, stay away from him in the future. Indeed, today's Marius is completely different from the warrior at LJ, with entirely opposite temperaments. Though I agreed with him in my heart, I didn't want to respond. Jeremy stole a glance at me and changed the subject. "How about we go to Provence or the Maldives in a couple of days?" These past few days, he's been talking to me like this, carefully, with a hint of trying to please, as if afraid of upsetting me. I showed no objection. "Whatever. It's just a month anyway. We'll get through it by enduring a bit longer." In the end, we didn't make it to Provence, nor did we get to the Maldives, because Lilith was pregnant. She posted a pregnancy test result with the caption, "Baby, Daddy doesn't want us anymore. But it's okay, you still have Mommy, and Mommy will definitely take good care of you." This news, like a bombshell, instantly Jeremy into pieces. The official corporate account of SS and his personal account were flooded with curses. "Didn't you love her passionately? Even smashing a store for her? How could you dump her the moment she got pregnant? Ugh, scumbag. Get divorced already. Let our beauty go. What's all this talk about love? Your own interests are what matter most. How disgusting." Just 2 days ago he was professing his love to his wife in front of us, asking us to hold him accountable. How dare he boycott all products from SS, starting with me. Divorce, divorce, divorce. They even dug up my private account and came to comfort me in droves. My heart aches for you. Beautiful sister. Sister. Divorce him, please. A scumbag isn't worth it. Don't believe him when he says he loves you. It's all lies. If he truly loved you, he wouldn't have cheated. Divorce seems to have become more than just a matter between the two of us. SS stock price plummeted overnight, resulting in a loss of 120 million. On the contrary, the Nelson family, perhaps out of pity for me as the original spouse, began frantically purchasing Nelson family-produced goods. Even when the Nelson family officially advised rational consumption, they pressured for marriage again, though this time it was for divorce. Never mind whether we're rational or not. Let the beauty get divorced so we can keep buying. We'll give you money to fight the divorce case against that scumbag. Go bring your young lady back home. If you're short on money, we'll keep sending more. In the end, they couldn't even wait a full month. Jeremy signed the divorce papers. Olivia, after I deal with all this, can I still pursue you? I refused without hesitation. Let's just spare each other some dignity. He turned his head away, and a teardrop slid from the corner of his eye. After the divorce, I packed my bags and went abroad, ready to travel the world. My brother took me to the airport. Just before going through security, he patted me on the shoulder. Olivia, I hope you can be yourself and no longer be bound. My eyes welled up with tears as I choked out a yes. Traveling through one country after another. I've gotten much tanner, but I'm genuinely happy. I can run around freely, laugh heartily without caring about appearances, curl up in bed eating chips while binge-watching shows, or even dash to a street vendor with messy hair and slippers to grab a snack, then sit right there and devour it. Now, I am not the Nelson family's young lady who must follow the rules, nor the virtuous and considerate Jonas family's wife. I am just Olivia, the carefree Olivia. Freedom feels so good. I have seen Jeremy many times. On the streets of London, on the swaying boats in Venice. He stood at a distance, watching me from afar. As long as it doesn't disturb me, I'll let him be. I heard he's not doing well at all. Because of Lilith, the old master and the respected elders of the Jonas family are quite disappointed in him. Some of the branch families even suggested selecting an outstanding candidate from below to replace him. Jeremy said nothing, just silently cleaned up the mess. Offspring are very important in a large family. Even if it's a child conceived outside, they would still let it be born. After all, an illegitimate child isn't something they can't afford to raise. Who knows? It might come in handy someday. However, Lilith's child could not be saved. At 16 weeks pregnant, Jeremy took her for an amniocentesis. If it was his, abort it. If not, then it had nothing to do with him. Whether fortunately or unfortunately, the child wasn't his. Perhaps the hope of marrying into a wealthy family was shattered. Lilith ultimately did not keep the child. Later on, Jeremy withdrew from the Jonas family's power center. He said, I want to walk the path she once took. Then let him go. None of it has anything to do with me anymore. I encountered Marius while sitting on the Scottish coastline watching the sunset. He strolled up to me and naturally took a seat beside me. Olivia, would you like to give it a try with me? I tilted my head to look at him. Try what? Marriage. I'd rather not. I have looks and money. I can live perfectly well on my own. Why should I trap myself in the cage of marriage again? He rubbed his chin thoughtfully. You could use my money to support male models. That's quite an open-minded perspective. I squinted and smiled. No need. The assets from my ex-husband are more than I could ever spend in this lifetime. Not to mention, behind me stands the Nelson family. Only a fool would crawl out of a dragon's den only to fall into a tiger's lair. Jeremy and Marius, both chosen as heirs by their families. Who's to say which one is more virtuous than the other? After all, marriage was never a necessity. Who's to say that a life of freedom and independence can't bring happiness? The setting sun dyes the evening clouds red at the horizon, their reflections rippling on the sea's surface. The sea breeze brushes against my face. Everything is the best choice. Extra Jeremy. After Olivia and I got divorced, I couldn't sleep at all night after night. Closing my eyes, all I could see was her shadow. I wanted to go find her, even if just to steal a glance at her. But not yet. It's still too soon. The company has suffered a significant impact because of me, and all those shareholders have complaints about me. Those old folks at home are also seizing every opportunity to kick me out. If I leave, it will be on my own initiative, not because they force me out. And then there's Lilith. What was it that made me fall for her in the first place? Perhaps it was the way she stood at the school gate, holding her books, dressed in a white dress with the hem swaying in the wind, pure and beautiful, like the Olivia of those years. Yet not quite. The Olivia of those years was just like this, fond of white dresses, gentle and graceful. I drove to the Lilith's small apartment I bought for her. The room still had the familiar furnishings. Recalling all the crazy things we did here, I feel dirty just thinking about it. How could someone as filthy as me deserve to have Olivia back by my side? Lilith happily came to greet me, her hand resting on her still flat belly, her face full of happiness. Brother, have you come to see me and the baby? My gaze lingered on her belly. While it's still early, go and get rid of it. The smile faded from her face. Her eyes widened in disbelief. What are you saying? This is your child. My child. Only Olivia is qualified to bear it. Although, she can no longer bear children for me. However, her words did remind me. Is the child really mine? Terminate it now. Or wait a few months for an amniocentesis. You decide. The child seems to have become Lilith's weapon for climbing the social ladder. Once again, she went behind my back and caused a scene at the old family estate. She seems to know how important heirs are for families like ours. While Olivia and I have been married for 3 years without producing any offspring, the old man was displeased. But he still stepped forward to protect the child. Then let's wait a few months. At 16 weeks, we'll do the DNA test. If it's mine, I have plenty of ways to get rid of it. I know I'm heartless. But what can I do? If she had given birth to my child, there would have been no chance left for me and Olivia. The insomnia is getting worse. Every time I close my eyes, all I can see is Olivia. She smiled at me gently, playfully scolding me for leaving clothes strewn about, then sat quietly by the window reading at the small table. The longing gnaws at my bones. I went to see a psychologist. After hearing my story, the doctor told me that emotional wounds require emotional remedies. But my medicine is far away across the ocean. She refuses to see me, let alone save me. The wait is excruciatingly long. As soon as the month arrived, I immediately took Lilith for an amniocentesis. The child is not mine. I couldn't stop crying. Olivia. My Olivia. I fought hard to get this 1 month, hoping to move her with this time. Even if she ultimately chooses to divorce, at least we still have a month of sweet memories. But because of this child who doesn't belong to me at all, everything is gone. It's all Lilith's fault. I rushed to the small apartment with the report in hand. I grabbed her by the neck and demanded to know why. Why she had to take my Olivia away from me. Lilith frantically slapped my arm, her words coming out in broken gasps. Wasn't it you who came on to me first? Jeremy. No. No one forced you to cheat. The grip on the hand gradually loosened. Yes. No one forced me to cheat. It took half a year to settle the company matters. After everyone had come to recognize me again, I voluntarily resigned. Longing is too bitter. I want to go find her, even if it's just to accompany her from afar, even if she won't accept me again. As long as I can see her, I'll gladly endure it. Extra Marius. The year I met Olivia, I was 5 years old. To ensure I received the best education, my mother made the difficult decision to send me back to the Lester family. It was my first time entering the Lester household, and also my first time meeting my grandparents. Lester's house is truly impressive, even more so than the mansion of the wealthiest family in our town. Following closely behind my mother, as a young child, it was only natural for me to feel somewhat timid upon first arriving at such an imposing and luxurious place. Grandmother held her teacup, gently tapping the rim with the lid, casting a disdainful glance at the two of us. Those raised in humble households truly lack the grace to stand on such occasions. I really don't understand why CE would choose a woman like you over a noble heiress. My father was a young master from a prestigious family, with a bright future ahead of him. But for my mother's sake, he voluntarily gave up his inheritance and followed her back to her hometown, a small county town with underdeveloped economy. My grandparents didn't like my mother. They believed that this lowly woman had stolen their son, whom they had carefully nurtured for over 20 years. So they ended up disliking me as well. But no matter what, I am the bloodline of the Lester family, an unchangeable fact. Despite their displeasure, my grandparents still accepted me. Acceptance didn't equate to kindness. They would make me stand in the yard as punishment under the scorching midday sun, just because I dropped a grain of rice during lunch. or accidentally made a sound when my spoon touched the porcelain bowl while drinking soup. They would also lock me in a small room, leaving me hungry to reflect on my mistakes. Olivia is like a little angel. She suddenly appeared at Lester's house, holding my hand while I was being punished to stand still, and coquettishly said to Grandpa, "Grandpa, Olivia wants this little friend to play with me. Is that okay?" Who could refuse such a sweet and adorable little girl? It was the first time I saw such a kind expression on Grandpa's face. She pulled me to a shady spot, let go of my hand, and beamed at me. "My name is Olivia. What's yours?" I lowered my head, somewhat shyly. "Marius." She tilted her little head, leaning closer to me, her big eyes blinking. "Marius, you're really good looking." I stayed at Lester's house for only a few days before being taken back by my parents after breaking a conchiera vase belonging to Grandpa. The vase was broken by a servant in the house, but she couldn't afford to pay for it, so she blamed me. I tried to explain, but no one believed me. After that, I rarely returned to the Lester household, and whenever I did, I never saw her again. Only occasionally do I remember the little girl who pulled me from the scorching sun into the shade. Later, I heard she got married to Jonah's family's only grandson and heir. My emotions remained calm. After all, we were too young when we met, far from the age to develop romantic feelings. I saw her again more than a decade later. By then, I had already achieved success in starting my own business, and even my grandfather, who had always looked down on me, had to admit that I might be far more outstanding than he had imagined. He called me back to discuss taking over the Lester family. This kind of family, passed down through countless generations, values lineage, but even more so, ability. To be honest, I couldn't care less, but for my mother's sake, I agreed anyway. My mother, she's foolishly naive, dreaming of nothing more than gaining my grandparents' approval. I saw her standing by the roadside as I was leaving. I can no longer remember what she looked like as a child, but fortunately, my grandfather had shown me photos of all three generations in our circle. As if guided by some inexplicable impulse, I rolled down the car window and asked if she wanted a ride. She refused without a second thought. Indeed, to her now, I'm a complete stranger. It would be foolish of her to actually get into my car. Never expected to encounter her in LJ, the most dignified and proper young lady from the Nelson family of high society, dressed like a soul-stealing enchantress. Perhaps, this is her true nature after all, passionate and enchanting. She also noticed me, pointing with her fair and slender fingers. "This one is the most handsome. Let's take him." Seems she mistook me for a male model. I lowered my gaze, adopting an innocent and docile demeanor, and smiled as I stepped forward. Seems like this is getting interesting. Jeremy was lured here by me. I had someone contact him, saying his little sweetheart was working at LJ. According to the information I found, he usually dotes on that young girl and definitely wouldn't allow her to work in such a place. Sure enough, he came. I deliberately left the door half open and had someone guide him this way. Jeremy found us, and he was even angrier than I had imagined. Then again, what man could remain calm upon seeing his wife cheat on him with his own eyes? I admit I'm not a good person, and stirring up this whole mess was simply for the sake of watching the drama unfold. But when Jeremy grabbed her and tried to leave, a voice in my head kept screaming, "Take her back." Perhaps when she was straddling me and kissing me without any rhyme or reason, I already regretted bringing Jeremy over. I stood in their way, but she shook her head at me, and rightly so. They are the legally married couple, while I'm just an outsider. How can I talk about taking her back? She was never mine to begin with. I retrieved the surveillance footage and handed it over to a news outlet, and thoughtfully helped them draft the content. SS General Manager smashes luxury club in rage over mistress. Just the name alone sounds explosive. As for the truth behind the shop being smashed, those who know dare not speak of it. That mistress, not to mention she doesn't know the truth. Even if she did, how many would believe what comes out of her mouth? As I expected, the situation blew up. Jeremy compensated for all the damages, and along with the money came a message from him. He said, "One should have self-awareness. Don't covet what doesn't belong to you." I swept all the stationery off my desk onto the floor. After venting, I realized that what they said wasn't wrong. Saying I like Olivia might be an overstatement. I just thought she was interesting. At least that's what I thought before seeing her and Jeremy wearing matching outfits. After the unpleasant scene at the mall, I went back and smoked 2 packs of cigarettes. No matter how I think about it, her outfit that day still feels glaring to my eyes. Since you can't stand their loving relationship as a couple, then just break them apart. Jeremy, didn't you say she doesn't belong to me? Then I'll make her mine. He nodded, put his arm around the little girl, and walked away without looking back. She wants to climb the social ladder. Isn't that simple? One child is enough. As for how this child comes about, I believe she'll always find a way. A married tycoon had an extramarital affair, resulting in his mistress becoming pregnant. With the power of public opinion mobilized, their marriage is bound to end in divorce. As for Lilith, whether this fool can successfully use the child to climb up depends entirely on her own skills. They got divorced. I've met Jeremy a few times at business banquets. He doesn't seem to be in a good state. Rumor has it he's lovesick. Lilith failed to secure her position. The child in her belly isn't Jeremy's. A fool is indeed a fool. Just one simple sentence from me was enough to trap her. But luckily she's foolish. My goal has been achieved. I heard the news and just smiled. Olivia finished her trip in the UK and headed to Scotland. For the past few months, I've been keeping track of her movements. I also knew that Jeremy went looking for her. However, he had enough self-awareness not to dare approach and disturb her. Manager Jim, help me book a flight ticket to Scotland for tomorrow. After all this time she's had to settle. Shouldn't she be ready to start a new relationship? I stood by the window, gazing at the distant blue sky and white clouds. I asked myself again, do I like Olivia? The answer is yes.